Paradoxical. Boris turns down to carry out Plan B, puts screws public to kick off a booster jab. The Prime Minister has said that those who are still ending up in intensive care with coronavirus are the unvaccinated, as he urged the public to take up the offer of a booster jab. Speaking on a visit to a medical centre in East London, Boris Johnson said, "I think it's very good news that the JCVI has today authorised the booster programme to be rolled out to everybody 40 plus, and when you look at what's happening in the pandemic at the moment, just hearing in Newham sadly there are people in E2, in intensive care, who are suffering badly from COVID, but they're all the unvaccinated. And what's happening is if you can get your booster then your immunity goes right back up to 95%. So far we've got 75% of everybody over 70 getting a booster. There's a huge number of people, but it's that further 25% that will make all the difference to winter, to Christmas, to our plans going forward, because it's that extra level of protection that we really need." Asked whether he could guarantee a normal Christmas season, Mr. Johnson said, "We don't see anything in the data at the moment to suggest that we need to go to Plan B. We're sticking with Plan A. But what we certainly have got to recognize is that there is a storm of infection out there in parts of Europe. You can see those numbers ticking up very sharply in some of our continental friends. And we've just got to recognize that there is always a risk that a blizzard could come from the east again as the months get colder. The best protection for our country is for everybody to come forward and get their booster." Mr. Johnson said it was very good news that the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation had authorised an extension of the booster scheme. Research from the UK Health Security Agency, UKSA, has shown that 2 weeks after receiving a booster dose, protection against symptomatic infection was 93.1% among those who had initially received Oxford AstraZeneca, and 94.0% for Pfizer-BioNTech jab. In the light of these findings, the Prime Minister said, "So the message is anybody over 70, come forward and get your booster. Anybody over 50, come forward to get your booster. Now, in the next week or so, anybody over 40 as well, come forward and get your booster. People aged under 40 might also be advised to get a booster in the future," said Professor Wei Shen Lim, Chair of COVID-19 Immunisation for the JCVI. He told a Downing Street briefing, "We are looking very closely at the data all the time, and should there be sufficient signal to warrant a third dose, so a booster dose for this age group, then certainly we will announce that and advise that accordingly." Mr. Johnson has meanwhile suggested that Britons may soon need a booster jab to be considered fully vaccinated when going abroad or for self-isolation rules. He said there were plans to add the third dose to the NHS COVID travel pass. What the general lesson is from anybody who wants to travel, you can see that getting fully vaccinated with a booster is going to be something that will, on the whole, make your life easier in all kinds of ways, including on foreign travel, he added. In line with data from Israel, it's expected the UK's booster programme will help to prevent COVID-19 deaths throughout Christmas and beyond. Among the over 60s who have received a booster jab, there has been a 10-fold reduction against all COVID infections, an 18.7-fold reduction against hospitalizations, and a 14.7-fold reduction against mortality, and that's on top of the initial course of Pfizer, said Professor Van Tam. So I believe therefore that if the booster program is successful, and with very high uptake, we can massively reduce the worry about hospitalization and death due to COVID at Christmas, and for the rest of this winter.